bodybuilding isn't linear, as you've probably experienced. Your first year you might gain 20 pounds, second year 5 pounds, third year you've got a rough idea what's going on a lot better. You might gain 15, 20.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the SuperSetYourLife.com podcast. This is now episode 87 of the show that is still your weekly dose of entertainment, education, and inspiration to fuel your life inside and beyond the gym every Saturday morning. That is what we are here for. So we have, again, Mr. Jonathan Griffiths, the Carnivore Bodybuilder himself. This was an incredible conversation. If you have not heard our first two conversations with him, please look in the show notes below. Go check out those. You're going to hear all about his backstory. On this one, we got a bit more into strength, building muscle on the carnivore diet, lots of good stuff. Before we do that, we are going to get into two customer reviews. First one is from Dr. Epic down in California. He is a chiropractor, and he purchased our CGP, creatine glycerol phosphate. This is the creatine that I have personally been using ever since my last shows in the summer of 2019, and I have not cycled off of them since, unless I forget because I'm traveling, and that's always a bad day when I realize I forget my CGP, because all of my lifts literally immediately go down by 1 or 2 reps, and a week after of traveling, get right back on it, those reps come right back. Anyway, it's an amazing product. We are fully in stock now with both flavors, green apple and blue raspberry. Blue raspberry is my favorite. It's nice to have some variety though, so I always have 1 can of each open. If you are a creatine meathead like myself, you probably noticed and experienced throughout January, February, and March of the year 2022 a global creatine shortage. And I was able to barely get by until Metabolic Nutrition, our suppliers, were able to replenish and we're able to make more. And so since then we have completely stocked up. And I mean, some people hoard ammunition, some people hoard all kinds of stuff. I happen to hoard creatine because I am not going to let that happen again. Literally got a huge stack of it. Everything is on our website at SuperSetYourLife.com. But yeah, if there was literally a global shortage on creatine. And at the time of this recording right now, today, it is April 29th of 2022. But this is what Dr. Epic had to say about it. He said, "I'm noticing great gains. It was amazing. I stopped as it was blowing me up a little bit much, and I had a wedding in a fitted suit, so I'm back on it now and love it." So, that's something that I'm noticing is that it's pretty much night and day difference when you're taking it and when you're off of it, unless you're just a complete non-responder. But yeah, this is on our website, SuperSetYourLife.com. If you do not get an extra rep or 2 on every single exercise, and if you do not notice some good, dry, hard muscle gains from this product, I will refund your money. And if for some reason I decide not to, which of course I would never do that because that would be a huge lack of integrity, Metabolic Nutrition, our supplement company, proudly backs everything that they have with a money-back guarantee. So nothing to lose there. All right, that is the customer review. And then the next one is going to be Mr. Todd Rogers. We had a quick conversation. He just recently finished up a 12-week hypertrophy transformation program. Todd was able to build significant muscle while losing a significant amount of fat, and we're going to touch on that right now in this conversation that we recorded right after his program. We started you off at 165. You got down to 149, so lost 16 pounds in the scale, down 10% of your body fat, went from 13% body fat all the way down to 3%, and you just tested at like 4.5% this morning, right? So that's good. we need to be a little bit higher so that you're a little bit healthier. So that's definitely a good thing. And then your fat, and that's what since 2 weeks ago. You tested it
1 week ago.
Since 1 week ago. Okay.
It's Saturday, but it's Sunday.
And you've been eating 500 calories extra every day too, which is great. I mean, that's perfect. We want you getting bigger, getting fuller, and putting on some muscle. And so you lost 17 pounds of fat and built 7 pounds of muscle, 6.8 pounds of muscle to be exact. But I guess now, by now it's been 7 because you built a pound of muscle since last week, right? A half pound of muscle. Okay, so that would put you at
what we're shooting for, right?
Yeah, so that would put you at 7.3%. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. So, all right, what was the What was the most fun part of the program, man? What was the most of the last 12 weeks? Like, what made you the happiest and was like, this gives me something to look forward to every day?
Watching the weight go up, especially on like the deadlifts, and then like a month and a half to 2 months into it, like the mirror. When I woke up in the morning, I was like, no, oh man, I always wanted to like look like that, and then now I am.
Thanks a lot, Todd, for all those kind words. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you, man. Glad that we're still working together, and I know that you're going to do huge things with your physique in this year of 2022. So God bless you, brother. All right. As always, you can text the word coaching to 206-743-1346 for coaching inquiries. We do now have a coaching application where you can apply to coach with me and with my wife, Taylor. It is not on our website yet. We will announce that when it is ready. But in the meantime, you can still just text coaching to 206-743-1346, or you can send an email to colt@supersetyourlife.com. That's pretty much it. Now we're ready for the interview with Mr. Jonathan Griffiths.
So my training split is usually 4 to 5 sessions per week. And it consists of, I'd say, usually 2 to 3 body parts. So it might be like a push-pull leg split. So that'd be chest, shoulders, triceps. Pull would be back, biceps. There'd be legs, which would be quads, hams, and calves. As of recently, I've changed it up a little bit. So I've been doing chest and shoulders, back and hamstrings, then quads and calves. But I'm not too religious when it comes to that in the off season. I'm much more particular when I'm pre-contest, because your energy's low and you've got to make sure everything recovers fully, you know. So it's quite traditional over here. In England, we train, I say, like the average lifter will be either a bro split or what I do, which is like a push-pull leg split.
Right on. Do you tend to hit muscle groups more frequently when you're on contest prep because you can't really hit them that hard, and so they can recover a little bit quicker, and then maybe give them some more rest on the off season?
I do say so, yeah. I think in the off season it's kind of strange because I feel like you can really hammer it. You can, for example, you might do 8 to 10 sets or something. But if you're doing 8 sets, they're going to be a really tough 8 sets, but your recovery, your joints just aren't taking it when you're pre-contest. So your sessions are a bit lackluster. So you end up doing might be 6 to 8 sets, but there'd be maybe 80% to failure rather than 100% to failure.
Do you typically train to failure like in the off season then?
I'd say most sets, yeah. I'd say I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called technical failure. So that's basically when your rep speed or your form alters from the first rep to the last rep. So I try and keep my form strict, really just throughout. Then as the sort of sets go on, once it gets to the point where your cadence like halves, so if you're going up 1, down 3, then goes from like up 2 to like down 2, then I'm thinking, all right, I'm obviously struggling a bit to sort of do the eccentric part and the concentric part. So that's when I'd probably just drop the set pretty much and just finish.
Cool. I was hoping you would say that something about going to failure, because every time I talk to you, I feel like I'm talking to Dorian Yates. And of course, he was a huge proponent of training to failure. And so just wouldn't feel.
Yeah, something we all do over, I think. It's very common, like not many of us do really long sets or anything. I mean, have you heard of James Hollingshead?
I have not.
No, so he's a British bodybuilder. He's probably one of the top 2 pros at the moment in this country. And he's sponsored by Red Cordon 1, but he does quite a similar sort of training split to me. But he focuses more on compound movements. But his warm-ups are like several sets. So he might do, I don't know, 260 kilo squat, so maybe like a 500-pound squat, and do like 15 reps or so. But he'll work up to that, so he'd take a lot more warm-ups. So his leg sessions end up being like 2.5 to 3 hours. Mine tend to last about an hour and a half.
Okay. You can get a lot done in an hour and a half. Yeah, I was shocked to hear Dorian Yates on it. I mean, this is like everybody's favorite podcast of him, but his interview on the Joe Rogan show about how he only trained 4 days a week for 45 minutes. And I was like, how can you possibly build muscle doing that? But then when you go like look at footage of him actually training during that 45 minutes, it's like, yeah, no, if I did that for 45 minutes, I'd be spent. I wouldn't be able to do anything like that.
Yeah, I think you do cap out, regardless of what you're doing, you do cap out between 45 minutes and an hour. Doesn't matter how fit you are, your muscles can't take that much beating. So,
all right, I just made sure I'm extra prepared for the rest of this conversation we're going to have, because I got out a kilograms to pounds calculator on my other monitor. So whenever you say anything in kilograms now, the first thing I'm going to do is translate it to English.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, cool, man. So what is a push workout for you? If you're going to hit shoulders, chest, and triceps, just walk me through it. Like, what does that look like when you go into the gym?
So I tend to alternate whether I do chest or shoulders first. I always do triceps at the end. A chest workout would be like an incline hammer chest press. Mm-hmm. Then I'd switch maybe to a shoulder press or a side raise. Then I'll probably go into chest fly. Then again, either a shoulder press or a side raise. And the triceps would be usually 2 exercises, sometimes 3. So I quite like dips at the moment, like the machine dips, overhead cable extensions with the Skullbellz, and yeah.
How you liking those, by the way?
They're pretty good, actually. They're nice. They got a lot of good length to them.
Thanks.
So when you'd sort of doing a cable curl, you're not finding that your wrists are hurting too much, because you can actually just naturally move it to the sides. They'd be quite helpful. I take them to the gym with me, so yeah, I do use them. But yeah, a push workout is usually lasting, say, an hour and a half. I do find I can endure quite a bit for those body parts. They're not overly taxing either. There's not much spinal loading, so you can breathe quite well with the next exercises. Mm-hmm. But yeah, most of my workouts seem to be about the same sort of volume as yours, maybe a little bit less sometimes, but very similar.
Do you track like the total number of working sets from workout to workout? Like you're somewhere between 30 and 40 exercises when you count up everything, like bench press, flies, side laterals, triceps?
Yeah, I'd say I'm counting every set as a set. Mm-hmm. Mainly because my warm-ups aren't really warm-ups. They're very close to failure as it is. Then I'd say probably on any given day, 20 to 25 sets.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that seems to be about right for me. It works out around about 8 sets per body part. Sometimes 9 or 10, but just depends how I feel in the day, pretty much. Nice. Sometimes you just can't push it,
Yeah, I tend to go about 5 or 10 more working sets to there. I mean, like literally, if we're counting everything. I'm also an endomorph too, and so the extra calorie burn is something I kind of find value in. And after 20 or 25 sets is usually kind of when I feel the best, actually. Like I just most of my workouts, man, I just feel like garbage the first 15, 20 working sets.
Yeah.
After that, like I think it's when just enough endorphins kick in, just enough blood flow comes in, then like that's kind of when you have a really good pump. And so that's always a good mental boost, confidence boost. And then I kind of try to take advantage of the last couple sets, and that's usually where the videos come in. If you see me happy in a good mood, it's because it's at the tail end of my workout.
Yeah.
Never at the start.
Yeah, I'd say at the start I'm usually a bit more grim to be around. Just because I'm so meticulous, especially if I'm thinking this is the first exercise I'm going to do. I'm fresh out the bat, so I'm just going to hit it as hard as I can, pretty much. And from then I'm the opposite. I tend to slow down a little bit. But yeah, I think exercise selection is quite important as well. I know some people do a lot of warm-ups, and I think you're wasting a lot of energy there, But I focus a lot on like cadence, range of motion, all the things that most of us do anyway.
So since you don't warm up very much, which I don't personally either, both of us are busy. We got kids and everything. We got plenty of reasons to not be doing exercises in the gym that don't give us the most bang for a buck. So like, how do you get around that? How do you, like, obviously you don't go into the bench press and go, okay, 300 pounds for 3 reps right now. Like you work your way up to it, I'm assuming.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'd say I'm doing about a 15-minute cycle before every workout. My heart rate's elevated when I start anyway. Usually broken a bit of a sweat. But I'd say I probably do the first exercise might be 20 reps, but the most I could probably do in that actual set if I was going to failure would be 22, 23 reps. Second set's usually a bit heavier, so it might be, for example, incline hammer chest press might be 170 kilos for about 6 reps. I don't like going below 6. I find that's like the lowest you can really get, especially if you're tall like us. It's not good in the joints.
170 kilograms for 6 reps.
Yeah, I think it's about 380, 390.
375 pounds on what exercise?
Yeah, incline hammer chest press.
Incline. Oh, the hammer strength chest press.
Yeah.
So not a bar, but the plate loading machine.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's still a ton of weight, man. Jeez. Wow.
Yeah, there's not much space left on there for me, really. It started to get a bit rickety, the gym one, so I'm a bit cautious of that. But it's got to the point now where I think it's so much weight that I might as well just pre-isolate first, like pre-exhaust.
Okay, so do you? That was my next question. Do you typically start with compound exercises? You got people like Coach Greg that are like, who Coach Greg, IFBB Pro is, right? Yeah. Okay. So he's a big fan of starting with your compound lifts first, and then doing the isolation works towards the end of the workout when when your central nervous system is kind of taxed. I'm kind of the opposite. I like to start with the isolation first because I kind of count that as my warm up too, and then I get better muscle activation during my working sets. And there's people on both sides of the fence. I'm kind of wondering what your style is.
I'd say I prefer. Well, for me, I consider the incline hammer strength press with isolation, because you're getting the most load when it's the most short, the pec.
Yeah, there's not a lot of tricep activation on that either.
No, so yeah, I'd say generally I'm going to isolate something before I'm using a compound. That's particularly true with weaker body parts, so things like quads, lower back, triceps. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna warm them up properly.
Start with. I know that starting with, from what I remember reading in Arnold's book, it's pretty building the upper chest and focusing on the upper chest seemed to be more of a German and Austrian thing than it was an American thing for a while. I mean, everybody at the gyms here, everybody that I know always starts with the flat work first and then moves into incline like later on in the workout. But you go right into the incline press, huh?
I straight into it. Yeah, I think if someone's got shoulder issues, you might change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because it's a bit harsher in the shoulder joint. But yeah, I think we're not afraid to do declines over here. I'd say we do more decline than flat.
Oh, okay.
That's quite commonplace. Yeah.
I haven't touched a decline bench in like years.
It's quite lethal, and it's like you decapitate you, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely can be. I'm with you though, man. Like pretty much all my chest work, I hit chest like once a week. It's it's not a professional level chest by any means, but it's definitely ahead of my weaker body parts. So for that reason, I'm spending more time on the shoulders and quads and areas that the judges are saying that I really need to build. But I'm with you though. I mean, most of my chest work too is definitely focused on the upper chest. I'm curious, do you ever go for a 1 rep max on any of your big lifts?
No, I've not done that since I was about 16, I think.
Good for you.
A decade ago. I think I was doing 165 kilos for 2. A workout like 340 or something.
On bench?
Yeah, it's my weakest left by far. I was a lot stronger deadlift and squat.
Yeah, I got 350 for 1 on bench, and that's an all-time record for me. And that alone kind of threw out my shoulder too. Like there wasn't a point where it snapped, but between that and then when I maxed out on squats is where it really took a hit because I go with the low bar, which is kind of tough on the shoulders. So this last week for me has been pretty tough on the rotator cuff, but that's my problem, not yours. Yeah. So do you follow this pattern pretty consistently throughout your back workouts and your leg workouts?
Yeah, I always hit the weaker part of the muscle first. So if it was my back, it'd be my mid back. I'd focus maybe on like a row.
Oh, okay.
I'm quite limited at my current gym, but I'd use a lot of cables, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in going overly wide in the grip. I find it just doesn't do a lot. But I don't believe in like narrow either. I never use the V bar.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say at least, I can't really see the camera, but at least about maybe 10 inches apart.
Okay.
Use
So
that kind of grip.
kind of shoulder width, maybe a little bit more narrow.
Yeah, about there seems right.
So most of your back work is focused on the mid back, huh? Not like the lower lats to gain any more width.
Yeah, I've found I can isolate the lower lats quite easily. If I'm doing assisted chin-ups, I do tend to hit it very, sharply, sort of thing. But it seems quite an easy body part to train for me.
Yeah, I'm looking at your back right now, and you are certainly not lacking in back width or thickness by any means. I mean, you just have, damn, dude, a lot of muscle on that back. Holy crap.
Yeah, my brother's got a thick back as well. It's I think we always focus on the body parts which got forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
We're not naturally the most broad people, so we've tried to accentuate that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So you do biceps and back the same day then?
Yeah, usually.
What's your strategy around that? Do you have one or the other that you start with?
I'd start with back first. I do find sometimes you can do triceps after a back workout as well. But it depends how. If you're doing a lot of underhand stuff, like underhand row, underhand pull downs, I might do triceps after back rather than biceps. But I'm not overly religious about what I do at the moment.
Right. Okay. And then a leg day, what does that look like for you?
That it's not a great lot at the moment. It tends to be a leg extension first, lying leg curl.
You're working through a leg injury, if I remember correctly.
I've got a back injury, yes. I've got 2 cracks in the articularis structure, which is the bits on the side, basically. So they're unstable. That's caused the disc between it to shrink to nothing, basically. So I've got a slip disc that goes forward. So it means I can't load my back with more than 220 pounds. That's about as much as I can do. But it seems to be any kind of excessive wear and tear. So if I'm doing, even if it's like 50 pounds, if I was doing it for 20, 30 reps, it'd give me the same sort of pain. So I've had to isolate a lot of thick movements. I found a good tip actually is when you're doing a leg press, rather than sit flat with your glutes on the bench, try and elevate them slightly. I found that's been quite helpful for my lower back. That's for a more like natural arc, I believe.
Really? So you let your back like curve up a little bit?
Not quite curve up, but I just I'm off the platform, off the seat.
And that's your hips or your lower back that's off the platform, like arched, like a bench press?
It's my hips, I guess.
Wow. That sounds like it just seems to me like that would add more compression to your lower spine.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I'd recommend trying it first. Okay. I'll send you a video when I next do it.
Yeah, because what I'm envisioning doesn't sound safe, and so I'm thinking that I'm just not understanding correctly. But
it might be that, yeah.
Anything to help me on the leg press, so that's just an uncomfortable exercise that I do not particularly enjoy.
It's not my favorite. You got to load it so many weights. I mean, to get a decent load of it, you do have to fill up the stack pretty much.
And so you're doing leg press more than squats right now because of your back issues, I'm assuming.
That's right, yeah. I'm hoping to get an epidural soon, which is like a cocktail basically they put in your spine. anti-inflammatory, steroidal functions.
Oh yeah, no, I'm very familiar with the epidural. So is my wife. We
Oh wow.
yeah, well, she had two.
Yeah, they don't like giving them out over here, so I'm just waiting for that. But they're hoping that the L5 and S1 vertebrae will fuse together.
Mm-hmm.
This basically saying, we'll give you this injection, give it some welly sort of thing when you're training, and hopefully it'll erode the disc, then it'll fuse properly.
Wow.
So
let me know how that goes. I'll be praying for you on that one. Jeez.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. So that seems to sum up your push-pull leg split. Has training without the carnivore diet seemed to be any different than training on the carnivore diet? Like, are there things that you can do better with carbs, or things that you can do better without them when you're eating more clean, like you and I prefer to do?
I found my recovery between sets was better on a carnivore diet. I imagine that's partly due to congestion and inflammation around your lungs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you do hold a lot of water around your sort of chest section when you're intaking carbs. I'd say the only difference is when I'm doing a max exertion set. That's when having carbohydrates in the diet seems to help. And I think we mentioned before, there's a natural bodybuilder that does it, but he's very metabolically adapted to it. Like if he ate a pizza, he'd be back in ketosis like the next day, sort of thing. Whereas people like us probably not.
Yeah, if I eat carbs, I'm out of keto for usually a couple of days, and the next 2 days just suck. Like, I just want more carbs, and then after 2, 3, especially 4 days, then my body just kind of forgets that it exists, and then like the muscle pumps come back from the being ketogenically fat adapted and everything.
Yeah, sure.
But also, I'm keto carnivore right now, so not the high protein approach that you and I were talking about in the first couple episodes. I find that to be amazing for bulking and wonderful for cutting too. But this year it's like I got 2 competitors that I'm coaching, and I know that the keto diet works. And I know exactly how to do it for a contest prep because of good old Robert Sykes and his book here that we just finished studying and going over.
Chestnut. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I decided. I was like, I want, like, I know that we're onto something, but I really just want to win and make sure that everybody else does great first, and then we can work on the carnivore contest prep next year. But it's been a massive success for bulking. Do you typically have carbs when you bulk, or do you just go straight carnivore even if you're trying to build muscle?
I had carbs when I'm bulking. Yeah, I just find it so hard to eat that much food. I started from a place when I was 14 years old, and I was eating probably no more than 2,000 calories a day. I was gaining muscle, but there's more your natural hormones sort of kicking in, and it's almost like you mature and turn into an adult. But nowadays, for me to gain a substantial amount of muscle, it is around about 6,000 calories. I've tried doing carnivore again recently as a bulk, but I can't seem to get my fat above about 300 grams. That's with high protein as well, so it just seems like unfeasible.
Mm-hmm. How's your, if you don't mind me asking, like, and if this isn't something that you want on the air, I get it, but how's your blood work been with that amount of protein and that amount of fat? I mean, that's kind of the biggest red flag that anybody would
it seems to be correlated with if I'm in prep or not.
Mm-hmm.
So my creatinine levels at 3,000 before. So I don't know what the range is over there, but I think the range goes up to about 50 here or something. I attribute that to overtraining, really.
Yeah.
I was doing 3+ hours of exercise a day. But yeah, I don't have any issues. I get regular blood tests. I've had heart scan before. I've got zero inflammation. Mm-hmm. Except when I'm in peak off season, it raises a little bit. It's only like 2. It's not a substantial amount. Mm-hmm. And I've been drug free now for I think 4 months. So yeah, I've not noticed any dip or anything. I'm waiting for blood test results to come back soon.
Haven't lost any muscle?
No, you're eating
you did it
400
right.
grams of protein a day religiously. I think just keep the training the same. I think you can keep the calories at the same level, but you just have to accept the fact that your composition isn't going to quite be the same. So you might be 2% less muscular, but 2% more fat. So your weight will probably stay the same. But I know as soon as I drop the calories too much, too fast, I think you lose a lot of muscle then.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just going to say one more thing. I can totally relate to you on the on the recovery time versus the prep and the bulking too. It's like I feel like when it's just meat and you cut out especially vegetables and fiber, like I just my inflammation is gone, my skin is way better and healthier. I'm less bloated, and my recovery is definitely better. That being said, I'm also not setting any records or anything when I'm cutting, because like I don't really have the energy, and there's just no point to push yourself way past failure if you're not going to build that muscle anyway. You don't need to kill them. You're just preserving what you've already built at that point, more or less. Still training like you're building muscle, because you can build muscle in a deficit, and that's how you maintain the muscle that you have. But yeah, over Christmas and January, February, March, it was like I was trying to stay strict carnivore, but every time we traveled, it's just hard to say no to my mom's banana bread and stuff. Like when we made the Montana trip, it's like I remember how good that stuff tastes. And anyway, certainly wasn't perfect, but every time I eat sugar, it's just okay. I'm a beast for a couple days, but just feel miserable. Just the body.
Slows you down.
And it's like, ugh. I don't know. I don't know how you. I don't know how you guys that are 218 pounds shredded with glute striations do it, man. Like you're what, like 250, 260 right now? Like I can't imagine. That's too heavy.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of pressure in your heart. I think it's I don't know how there's people shorter than us who are like 5'9" and they're walking around 300 plus pounds. It seems impossible. I think your blood pressure is something you have to look at, really. That's elevated too often, too long.
So how's that been for you? I mean, you have way more muscle than the average Joe does. You have way more muscle than I do. So have you experienced any level of, I mean, just for those that don't know, or that maybe haven't caught the first couple episodes. If you haven't, you got to go back and listen to those first so you can get more of Jonathan's backstory. But you are, if I remember correctly, 6'1".
Yeah.
And 218 pounds, absolutely shredded.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, which is a ton of muscle. That is a lot of muscle. Have you had any heart issues, anything like any kind of health concerns from getting to that level of extreme of a competitive level in bodybuilding?
I think my blood pressure, when really pushing food, it does elevate to around about 135, 140 over 70 or 80. Pre-contest, it runs on the low side, so it'll be around 110, 115 over 60. That's the same with my heart rate as well. It goes down to about 40 or so.
Okay. Does your blood get thick? Like, do you have to donate blood or anything?
No, I'm actually, I've actually got iron deficiency anemia. So I do eat a lot of meat for a bodybuilder anyway. But I just tried to get as much iron as I can from my diet. So I've not had any hematocrit issues, blood thickness, viscosity issues. I supplement with omega-3 fish oil as well. I find that helps a lot. To my understanding, there's a lot of toxicity in those, but I use one that's been ultra filtered and sort of checked off like 11 times over, sort of thing. So I'm not too concerned about toxin levels and that. Okay.
Yeah, the only concern I've ever had in my blood pressure is great. It's super low right now. Heart rate is great, super low as well. Liver lipids, something I asked my doctor. I was like, is there anything in my diet or supplementation that could be causing my liver lipids to be as high as they are? And they're not super high. He was like, no, he's like, it's just something that I see literally every single power lifter and bodybuilder doing. It's like, you're probably not going to be training this hard the rest of your life. And I was like, I don't know, we'll see. But
we'll get that.
It's not a super big concern, but just kind of something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, sure. I've had a virus about let's say 3 or 4 years ago. That wrecked my liver and kidneys. I've recovered since, but my kidneys were slightly enlarged. I don't think they said it's scar tissue, but they're enlarged. But they found because of my diet had such high protein, they've actually acclimatized to that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're used to it now. So I had it's like a radioactive tracer or something put through me, see how quickly I'd filter it. And that was completely normal within range. So, you know, and when I say within range, I mean in the middle of the range, not high normal sort of thing.
Yeah. Right on. Have you read Robert's book by chance, his ketogenic bodybuilding book?
Not yet, no. I need to soon.
Yeah. There's something that he said in here about protein, that about having too much protein. And I was going to ask what your opinion was and if you had experienced it. And so excuse me for a minute while I go look at this. But in the meantime, I was going to ask if you have ever do you take deload weeks? Do you train hard 6 days a week every single week, or do you ever take a week off?
I'm doing 4 to 5 sessions a week, and that is, I'd say 90% of my sessions are max effort. I don't specifically take deload weeks, but I will take periods where I reduce the training volume slightly. I find, at least for myself, that I don't want to reduce intensity too much, but I'm not fearful if I have to take extended periods of time off. For example, when I had COVID, I think I had 4 or 5 days off in total. There's research basically which quite clearly says that after 6 to 8 weeks, you almost get diminishing returns. So you can actually take 10 to 12 days off, I believe it is, and not have any composition changes for it.
So on page 124 of Robert's book, Ketogenic Bodybuilding, he says, at certain levels, excess protein results in bloating, brain fog, and inflammation. There's no sense in experiencing that if you don't have to. This is the fat adaptation phase, right? Because Robert uses more ketogenic macros than what you and I like to do, which is higher protein. So are these anything that you've ever experienced from having that amount of protein?
I'd say when you're not putting an energy substrate with it to an adequate amount. So, for example, if, say, a 200-pound bodybuilder is doing, 400 grams of protein plus, like I do, but they're coupling that with low-fat diets, they're only having 50 grams of fat a day or something. So they're basically just dieting on chicken breasts. That's when they're going to have the issues. Like I said, they're producing more blood sugar from the proteins. I believe that does spike your blood sugar to some extent, but the issue is when you don't have enough fat in your diet, it doesn't regulate itself properly. So I think you'd struggle to have the appetite doing Robert Sykes' diet with high protein, because the fats are so high, you're not going to want to eat more food,
Yeah, I found it to be very, very satiating. That was one of the biggest takeaways that I got from the first conversation that you and I had, was when you were like, you know what, I actually, my satiety was a lot better when I cut out vegetables because it improved your digestion. And so even though you were eating less volume, your body became more efficient at digesting the nutrients that you had, because it wasn't having to sort out from all the vegetables, which, if you're not new to the carnivore, if you're unfamiliar with the carnivore diet, this probably sounds crazy, but from yours and my perspective, and in comparison to a meat-based diet, vegetables essentially have no nutritional value. There's no calories in them. There's less nutrients than there are in meat, and furthermore, they have anti-nutrients that come along with the nutrients that they do have. And so there's two sides to the coin. And like, yeah, you're getting nutrients from the vegetables, but your body is also having to now fight all these anti-nutrients, which is the plant's defense mechanisms to incentivize you to not eat more plants. Animals' defense mechanism is to either run away or eat you.
Right.
So
there's
a difference between plants and animals. And if you're eating exclusively one source of, this is just basic elimination diet. If you're eating one source of food, your body becomes very, very efficient at using that for fuel. So that was a big takeaway that I got from our first conversation, and something that's been helping my satiety, my performance. I mean, I just feel 10 times better. The less you
can train without having the food focus.
Mm-hmm.
I find that a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like I would be eating, like, this is when I was bulking. I'd be eating 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day, and I can't do 6,000 calories like you can. But I don't think my metabolism is quite there. But even 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day with a lot of like voluminous foods, I'd be hungry. I'm eating 1,000 calories a day less now at the start of my prep, 21 weeks out, and I'm more satiated and eating way less food because my fats are higher.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable. That's part of the issue with people that eat. They say I'm going to stick to 1,500 calories a day, but it's not really that much. Your body's recognizing nutrients; it's not recognizing energy, like calories. And calories are just a measurement of heat. It doesn't mean anything really to people like us. So I always used to think when I started training, why do I just eat meal 1, meal 2, meal 3? Chicken, rice, whatever. But it actually makes more sense because they're eating the same volume of food or quantity of food. They're not using the calorie scale as like a crutch to swap it out all the time. So the body becomes more efficient, then you actually end up getting more nutrition from it.
Mm-hmm.
Your stool size and probably quarters as well. Essentially, the only waste products you get is your gut lining. So that regenerates itself, refreshes itself very often. So a lot of the stool that gets excreted is just the microbes from the gut lining, basically.
Mm-hmm. What does your reverse diet look like coming out of a show? Like, obviously you don't go right back into eating 6,000 calories a day, or I hope not.
I'd say I'd take 2 days where I just eat whatever I want. Then what I do is I just say to people, just swap out one meal a day with something that you want, you can't deprive yourself for too long. Even if I think you just crave nutrients when you're that depleted. So you could just eat a big bowl of rice or something and feel, you feel like you've got something.
Mm-hmm.
I end up adding butter to everything, so a lot of toast and things like that. Once you get, I think the problem with the carnivore diet is once you get a taste of the carbohydrates, it's hard to come off them all of a sudden.
Big time.
Because your body just burns through sugar like quite happily. But the fat adaptation does take time. But I don't think there's much use in reverse dieting the way people like Lane Norton propose. I find that's too slow, and I feel like you're not making much use of the time when you're so insulin sensitive to actually put the nutrition to use. So I'd say, obviously, don't balloon up like 20, 30 pounds within the first week, because that'll affect your blood pressure levels. But do expect within 3 months of training to sort of increase your body weight by maybe 10%. So 20 pounds over 3 months, if you're a 200-pound bodybuilder, isn't a terrible amount, really.
Mm-hmm. Lee Priest, or I was just looking it up right now. I was trying to see if it was Lee Priest or if it was Dorian Yates, but one of these guys is a big proponent of the anabolic window, which means the next couple months after a show, your body is so deprived of those.
That'd be Dorian Yates, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so then that's actually one of the best times apparently to build muscle. I've never gone in with that approach because my coach has always encouraged me to use the longer reverse diet method, and that's actually what I teach as well. I'm wondering if you've ever experimented with that, like seeing how much muscle you could pack on right after a show.
Yeah, I just find your body's more sensitive, so I think you can take advantage of the window. But when people say it's a window, it's very much a sort of small square sort of thing.
Mhm.
It's not months upon months of anabolism. It's maybe 3 or 4 weeks. By that point, if you're coming off cycle as well, if you're an enhanced athlete, then you're going to take advantage of what's left of your system still. Then eventually, obviously, taper off from that point. I'd say bodybuilding isn't linear, as you've probably experienced. Your first year you might gain 20 pounds, second year 5 pounds, third year you've got a rough idea what's going on a lot better. You might gain 15, 20 again. But it's all over the shop, so I don't like to put things too incrementally. But I'd say fat loss is quite linear.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's when you get to see all the hard work that you've been putting in. And then
Oh yeah.
what's behind that though is the 5, 10, 15, 20 years of training where you didn't see those kind of results to finally be able to carve it out.
Yeah, for sure.
So when it comes to rep ranges, one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make is like everything is 10 to 12 reps. Legs, forearms, abs, calves. What are your optimal rep ranges? Like what has worked best for you? I'm assuming that you have a bit more of a sophisticated approach to how many sets and reps you're using for every body part.
Yeah, I believe anything which is going to tax more muscle, more my muscle group should be higher repetitions. So that's going to be a rows, pull downs, maybe like a high incline chest press, something like that, and squats. Generally, they should be done a bit higher. Just because I find by the time you build big legs, you're already squatting, 300 pounds at least. So by that notion, you're not going to really want to do 500 pounds, which is just going to load your spine even more. But I don't mind actually doing quite heavy isolation movements. I'm not afraid to go to 6 reps on those sort of things.
Wow, really?
Mm.
Because it's pretty standard to, it's like, your heavy lifts, those should be your power lifts, like your bench, your squat, your deadlift, and then something like a preacher curl you would never ever go heavy on. Is that something that you would disagree with then?
It depends on the integrity of the person's joints. I've generally been okay with most things, but I also believe some joints don't tolerate a lot of repetitive strain. I know at least my wrists hurt if I do a lot of repetitions for bicep curls. But it does depend. I just think it's as long as you're getting the repetitions in, and like your last repetition is like your first repetition, but at that point it starts the concentric phase slows down. I think that's what's gonna benefit people most.
Okay. Yeah, I found the heavier reps, like the heavy squats, the heavy deadlifts, the heavy bench presses to be a foundation. And then I don't really see a lot of muscle growth from that. But then when I focus more on the higher reps in the optimal rep ranges, like for me, legs, it's about 15 to 20 reps. Most upper body parts, it's like 8 to 12 reps. I find that those rep ranges and getting lots of blood flow has been better for building muscle, not for strength. Curious if you have any perspective on that, if you tend to favor heavy lifts or more like higher rep and blood flow in the off season to build muscle.
I tend to favor high repetitions, just because reality is a lot of the studies done where people said, they do 10 to 12 reps. That they're there to impress the guy in the lab coat, aren't they? So they're going to sort of think, right, I'm going to try really harder. So they're doing 10 or 12 reps, and that's how much they can do. Put a gun to the head, they might get 12. Put a gun to the mum's head, they might get 10, sort of thing. But yeah, I think people just don't know how to go to that level, that extreme, especially on sort of compound exercises. It becomes very unsafe too as well. So I think you can push close to failure if you know you can dump a weight quite happily. and it's only moderate weight rather than heavy weight, then that seems to be a lot better.
What's one of your favorite exercises to go to failure on?
Probably at the moment shoulder press. So I like to just do, I do quite a few sets in that. I'm doing about 5 sets in that at the moment, ranging from about 90 pounds to about 350 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm quite strict with my form as well. I don't lock out because I've got such long arms, it doesn't do more for my shoulders. I'm just moving my arms more. So I think, but it does depend on the movement. I mean, I'm doing at least 3/4 of the range of motion on each rep. But shoulder press seems to be the one at the moment.
Does anybody ever give you a hard time for it?
Yeah, the thing is, I'm not avoiding the hard part because most of my attention's at the bottom.
Yeah.
You know, when you're at the top, it's parallel with your shoulder joint. If I was just to say, all right, I'm going to do the top 3/4, then yeah, people might have a problem, but no one really says anything to me.
Both my brothers are in the military, and they give me a hard time because I'm like you. I don't lock out on pretty much any kind of pressing exercise. It's like that last 10%, I don't see any value in it because you're not getting any more muscle. It just takes that tension off your muscle at that point.
You see in the classic era bodybuilding of like the 70s, all their triceps are like withered. They've just got a long elbow bone like sticking out. It's almost like it's calcified and it's just thickened up a lot.
Huh.
From looking out so much. It seems quite apparent to me. Flex Wheeler has it. Johnny Jackson.
Really, I've never noticed that.
Quite a lot of bodybuilders that do heavy and lock out do tend to have that.
Okay.
Starting to look at Albert Beckles.
Mm-hmm. Do you lock out like on your squats?
No, I do the bottom 3/4. I don't ever lock out on squats. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I let my new clients get away with locking out on their squats as long as they're going down all the way, just to make sure they get the form down. And then after 2 or 3 sessions, once they have that down, I'm like, okay, we're doing 15 reps, and I'm going to stop you from going all the way up. So I'll literally put my arms on top of the bar so that they can't come all the way up. And then
your spine's loaded regardless, so you might as well make the most out of the tension you do have in the quads.
Mm-hmm. It's a different ball game. And then the part where I feel bad is I have to remember to let them lock out on the last rep because I'll stop them at rep 15 and like, can I rack it now? I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just hard to dump a weight when you're doing full range of motion. It seems a lot more difficult to me.
Mm-hmm. On your isolation moves, I'm assuming that you lock out though, like on tricep extensions, skull crushers, stuff like that.
I do on those, yeah. I find locking out, especially on weaker body parts where you perhaps can't isolate them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Try and get them as short as possible. That seems to be quite helpful. So triceps, yeah, definitely. Generally, the scientific consensus is that you do the shorter movements first. So like we're doing the isolation first, then perhaps the more stretch exercises afterwards.
Got a question for you. The serratus anterior, it's the muscle that ties the pec to the lats, lies underneath them. You really can't see it until you get shredded. It's that bear claw looking muscle. You know what it is. Side serratus poses where you really show that one, any kind of ab pose. Is that a muscle that you directly target, like with pullovers and in an attempt to build that muscle? Or is it just coming to conditioning? It's like, if you're doing your bench press, you're hitting it, just get shredded and you'll see it, kind of like abs.
I think you can hit it more if you're doing like a deep breathing bench press. I don't breathe a lot when I train, so I would hit that directly. Just the way I train, really. It's not saying I used to be a sprinter, very much athletically drilled to go as hard as you can and just focus on the movement rather than the oxygen capacity. But I was doing dumbbell pullovers actually yesterday. I think it was 70-pound dumbbells for around 18 to 20 reps. The way we do that is we get on the decline bench that you do, your crunches and sit-ups on. And just leg it behind us, slight bend in the arm. That seems quite good. We do it more so for chest than back.
I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, it's a great way to hit your back, but I find it, I'd rather hit my back with heavy rows and with heavy pull-ups and pull downs and stuff like that. But have you noticed your abs particularly taking a beating from doing those decline pullovers?
I have, yeah. I've noticed it's almost hard to breathe, but they're almost like statically contracted. I do notice a bit of soreness from that. Yeah.
I noticed, yeah, because when I first started doing those, that was like the first thing I noticed. And this was like 8 years ago when my initial coach taught me how to do pullovers. But I've started doing them lately on the decline bench because we just got a decline bench, and it's like night and day more ab activation now. And I'm not training abs right now. Like maybe once a week, like if I'm just sore and can't train anything else. But like every morning when I get up to go run, my lower abs are just shot. I'm like, what the heck is making my abs sore? Like I'm not even hitting them. And I've been doing the pullovers on the decline bench and skull crushers and a number of other exercises on the decline bench. Now that I have it, I'm like, cool. Now everything that I wanted the decline bench for, I'm just going to do it here. And I'm like, you know what? That's it. That's what's making my abs sore. That's it. One more reason to not even train abs, really, because it just, to see your abs just comes down to conditioning. It's not about building them.
It does come to conditioning, yeah. Abs is something for me more of something you train to pose, basically. If you got a small chest, you got a small chest, but abs isn't a size muscle, is it? It's really how you present it. So I think.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed too. Like on Instagram, it looks like I have great ab genetics, but they're actually quite terrible. And you'll see that like at a competition too. It's just like I got veins sticking out of my butt, like my hamstrings look like steel cables. Like I will be shredded everywhere, but those lower abs are always the last thing to go. And even when they're there, they just don't pop like yours do, and that's just purely genetic. But the nice little structure, Instagram filters and the shading and the lighting and everything, you can get creative and make it look like they're there with the right picture, but see them in person, then, it's like you can't, there's no filters on stage.
Yeah, it's funny. Me and my brother have the same ab structure, like the same shape.
Yeah.
But just mine are more rigid almost.
Yeah.
You're like body fat.
Yeah. And that's just, you can't train them to look like that. You can't do anything. Like you got to train them to some degree so that they're there, but no, it just comes down to diet. You're right.
Yeah, a lot of the, the old school bodybuilders that maybe the 90s, Milos Sarchev, Lee Labrada, they've all got, like Jay Cutler even from recent days, they've got like deep cut abs. But I think that's just because they've carried on training them for such a long time. Because when you talk about your abs, it's a thin sheath of muscle, like less than an inch thick, when it's not full of blood, like when you're contracting it. Do you think it's not, if it grows 1 millimeter, that's pretty good sort of thing?
Yeah. Okay. Bro science question for you, sir. Spot reducing fat. Is that something that you do? Do you like actually target like, oh, I'm going to do a whole bunch of crunches so that I can specifically burn belly fat? Or are you just like, it's all bro science, just diet and train the way you normally would and do cardio?
I'd say it doesn't really work. There's evidence suggests that a heated body part will burn fat faster. That's basically it. The sweat belts don't really work, but the idea is you just have blood flow getting there. People use like Yimbine and things like that to help get the blood flow to certain areas of the body, like the lower limbs sort of thing. Yeah, it's not something I was trained specifically for, but I have done my body fat levels with calipers meticulously, and I find I lose it in patches. There's not really a pattern to it, but say I start at 12% body fat, I might be I've shredded abs at like 6% body fat, like completely veins, everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not until maybe I get to 4 that maybe my quads come in, you know.
See, I'm the opposite. Like I got feathers right now in the right lighting, but I'm probably
I've seen that look good. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, appreciate it. Yeah, no, I've been kind of discouraged the first couple weeks of the cut. I'm like, okay, scale's going down. Everything's. I don't have a way to test my body fat, so I'm just kind of winging it with pictures and with the scale weight at this point, and just using all the metrics that I do have access to. Which is why I'm so big on the visuals, and that's the most important thing too. The judges don't care what % body fat you are, and none of that's accurate anyway. But I'm like, all right, abs are the same. Literally don't look any different than it did 3 weeks ago, and my lower back is the same, but I'm noticing it mostly in the legs. Okay, legs, you're definitely leaner now. Do you have any particularly stubborn areas where your body tends to hold fat, like the last little bit to go?
I'd say, funny enough, my chest, and that's changed over the years. So I used to start to have like veins across my chest very faintly, sort of thing, when I was quite pumped in the off season, sort of thing. But now it seems a lot harder for me to get that. But everything else comes off quite easily. Calves comes off easily, and forearms. Everything else takes a little bit longer. But once the ab fat's down to skin falls down to about 3.5 millimeters, everything else just falls down incrementally, like day by day, near enough. But yeah, I'd recommend a set of body fat calipers. You can do it yourself quite accurately. Once you've done it 10 times on yourself, you know, you don't even need to sort of see what you're doing to do it. You know, you know your points where you do it. So
yeah, I have a pair of them. I should probably go find them, and that's what I was using to train my competitors in the past. Was just was just the good old fashioned calipers. I like using the fancy ones, but the place that I was going to with the in-body scan is now out of business, and I called and asked if I could buy that in-body scanner from them, because that'd be a super good investment for our gym. And she was like, nope, somebody already bought it. And I was like, darn it. But apparently people are asking like every day for that thing. Those things are nice.
Yeah, they're pretty good, but they do rely on your hydration levels. You drink a gallon of water and you're automatically like 5% body fat less. That's the only issue.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why I always test so low on those. Cause like if I stepped on it right now, it would tell me I'm like 3% body fat. Like they tell me, which is obviously nowhere near accurate, but like my coach and I just could never figure it out, because he had one, and my the last coach that I had, and every time that I stepped on his in body, like before a show out, it was testing. It said that I was 1%. And that was all in body scanners too. It's just, I mean, some people just like don't really respond to them, and I guess I'm one of them. But I'm always extremely hydrated. I mean, like I drink 2 or 3 gallons of water a day, just like every day. So maybe that has something to do with it then.
Yeah. I mean, just for the audience's interest, I think getting your skin fold caliper amounts down to below 3.5-4 milliliters, you're going to be shredded at that point regardless. The lowest they do get is about 2.1, because that's the actual thickness of your skin. You know, the back of your hand sort of thing. So yeah, it's not going to get much lower than that. But once you're 4 milliliters or below all over your body, you're going to read at like 4% body fat. Then it just comes down to hardness and dryness, which ultimately just affects how you actually physically look.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm going to get back into the caliper game. Might as well. And nice thing about calipers,
it's another metric to measure, isn't it? If you know what you're doing, it's not costing you anything. It's quite an easy thing to do. It makes you accountable as well. So you know, like, okay, I've stuck to my diet this week and I've tried quite hard. I've only lost this much. It gives you something to measure, like a measuring stick. Then you can use that data in the future as well. You can look back in your diet, say this week, and say, this produced a 0.5 pound fat loss or whatever, then work out from there.
I'm finding the more metrics with myself and with our clients is the more metrics that we have to work with, the better, because it's like, I gained 1 pound today, but I'm in deeper ketosis, you know, hey, I'll take that. It's like you can take whatever win you have to go, oh, cool. And kind of write off on that, or like, okay, well, I didn't hit my lifts that I wanted to. I didn't, you know, I'm up 1 pound. I'm out of ketosis. What the heck? Just, you know, kind of random. Sometimes it happens, but hey, I'm looking like super vascular today. Great. Take pictures of it. There's
Yeah,
always
for
something
sure.
you can count as a win when you're on prep. You have to.
Yeah,
You got to stay positive.
yeah, I agree with that. If you get a good night's sleep on prep, that's pretty remarkable.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Or hey, I'm
Sleep
able to still perform on a prep, and a lot of bodybuilders aren't.
Mm.
Yeah. What other metrics do you have, like wins do you celebrate that maybe is like, not a scale victory or something, but it's just like stuff that keeps you going every day on prep?
Just looking in the mirror and seeing faint lines appearing more. Your waist gets smaller and smaller. I'd say just the separation gets deeper and deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking and thinking, no one really is going to notice this, but you're just taking it as that and thinking, okay, this is 1% closer each day. It just comes to a countdown at the end of the day. Once you get to about 10 days out, you're pretty excited, but you're a bit scared, but you're a bit anxious. But once you're actually on the stage, just whizzes past you,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Do people tell you that so you're losing weight, obviously, you're not building muscle when you're in a calorie deficit up through your show.
Mm.
Do you have people tell you that you look like you're getting bigger before a show?
Initially, yeah. I'd say you get to a point where you're almost in a groove and you're still quite strong. You're still lifting the same weights you could in the off season. Usually for most people it's about 8 weeks out. Then after that point, you just get smaller and smaller and smaller. But you have to realise that it's all an illusion. You're basically just a silhouette on the stage, and in the photos you see, you're not as 3D as what you'd imagine when you learn in gym mirror. So ultimately, it comes down to separation. I've been beaten by bodybuilders before that look like swimmers. They've just beaten me just from being outright leaner. So
yeah, good stuff, brother. Man, that was a lot. That was a great talk. I completely value your time and don't want to take anything else away from you. But I just want to say thanks for being on our show again. It's always a pleasure.
It's right, anytime.
I know, man. It feels like we should almost have this conversation every week or something at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
Hey, everybody, and that's it for this one. So just want to say thank you so much for joining in this entire episode. If you found this helpful or entertaining, please, we're asking you to share this with a friend. That would be awesome. That's how we are growing this podcast 100% organically. We'd love to hear what you think of the show as well. So any ratings or reviews that you have are very, very much appreciated. We have a new episode every Saturday morning. So make sure that you are subscribed so that you don't miss those. We never miss a Saturday. And if we do, we always make it up by having to come out the next week. Thanks again. God bless you. Bye-bye.